Welcome back, ARK players, to a brand new video. Now today, we've already talked about Genesis Part 1, so today it is time to talk about Genesis Part 2, because we also had an announcement back in Extra Life 2025 on something that is coming to Genesis Part 2 that a lot of us are really excited about. Now obviously Genesis Part 2 is coming a little bit later than Genesis Part 1, and we've got many more exciting things to look forward to before this map launches. I'll talk about what the ETA is right now for Genesis Part 2, but obviously with Studio Wildcard, things can always change. Now if you do enjoy today's video, drop a like and subscribe, and as you can see, I've moved myself to the other side of the camera because whenever we do videos on the wiki, I'm always blocking everything and being really annoying. See you in the next bit. So yes, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. So pretty much Genesis Part 2, I know a lot of you guys actually started playing ARK at Genesis Part 2. I know there's obviously loads of OG players there that started playing right from the beginning, but it was actually the most popular DLC that ARK has ever had on any other DLC. Some people know this, some people don't, but we actually had, just on Steam PC alone, we had 257,000 concurrent players just on Genesis Part 2 on Steam, which is just crazy because that doesn't include Xbox, PlayStation or anything else like that. It was the 5th and final paid DLC expansion for ARK Survival Evolved, and it was available through the Genesis Season Pass. Now this will be returning completely free to download, but it will have a DLC pack not called Bob's Tall Tales, it will be called Bob's True Tales. Now Bob's True Tales is the next DLC expansion after Lost Colony, so we'll have everything similar to Bob's Tall Tales. You'll have loads of new stuff to enjoy, and Bob's True Tales will be as part of Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. Just like in the past, how when we had Bob's Tall Tales, we had Steampunk Ascent, which was Aberration, we had Wasteland War, which was Extinction, and we had Frontier Showdown, which was for Scorched Earth. I don't know why I did it from the middle to the, I don't know why I didn't do it in order. I know the Scorch came first, and for Genesis, we'll have the same with Bob's True Tales. They'll be named something really cool, and there'll be a certain theme to each map. Don't know what type of theme. Maybe they'll go for some sort of underwater theme for Genesis Part 1, what do we know? But anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about Genesis Part 2, but before that, we need to talk about what was announced at the Extra Life 2025 event. So, of course, this was announced via the Ras Clark stream, because Ras Clark, Aaron Longstaff, and a bunch of, I think, like 20 other creators did this stream, and Wildcard said if they raise $30,000 for Extra Life, they will, Jeremy, who's the co-founder, will answer a whole bunch of questions regarding the future of ARK. And in this, we had lots of information and some massive information regarding the maps of Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2, which is what we're going to dive into now. So I have already made a video on Genesis Part 1, but basically Ras Clark went on to say, and of the future, does Lost Colony plan to perhaps influence the development of Genesis 1 and Genesis 2? Notably, you desired more time with these two maps to rethink the delivery of these two specifically, perhaps simply new creatures / quality of life arriving with this map, or have you are you excited to reshape how to deliver Genesis 1 and Genesis Part 2 now? So for Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, it will be fairly similar to how we approached the prior map upgrades. The maps themselves will be visually overhauled along with some functional refinements and new creatures as we've done with each map release. There is one key difference though that I can reveal now, and it was that Genesis Part 1 will have a map-wide water biome, and Genesis Part 2 is going to have a map-wide space biome. Those huge new areas will also help the support of the features of the Bob's Tales, which is Bob's True Tales. The storytelling of Bob's True Tales will be CGI orientated, canonical, true to life on ARK 2's world, Arat Prime, rather than the animated toon. The Bob's True Tales will add major new features as before, and also new kinds of vehicles. The team will be gearing up for the next ASA full map expansion pack over that time frame as well, further to the canonical content. So we're getting new vehicles coming to Genesis Part 2, and we are getting a space-wide, a map-wide biome. And what a lot of people have said, what does it mean by map-wide? People are literally saying, like, something like the size of the island. So, like, that big. All just space. So when you actually go back to Genesis Part 2 and you take in space from before, one of the things I loved about Genesis Part 2 was just everything we could explore on the ship. But I did feel like I wanted to explore more of the galaxy. And that for me is what's really, really exciting me about Genesis Part 2. The fact of we're actually going to be able to explore space. You know, like the way that, you know, this map was huge. There was so much stuff, but space was just, you know, not exactly, you know, you didn't have the most sort of, it was more about the ship, wasn't it? And the fact that we'll actually be able to maybe maneuver around a little bit more in space is just fantastic. And not even just a little bit more, a whole map size. Which sort of brings me to what types of, like, so if we're getting new vehicles for Genesis 1 and Genesis Part 2, for me, I'm getting the vibe that we're going to get some form of new spaceships to fly around in. So this is going to be crazy because I want to take you guys back to a video I did probably when I was about 17 or 18 years old. And there used to be something, I've mentioned it in the past before, there used to be something called the ARK. It was probably still be around somewhere, but it was called ARK Unreleased Features, I think it was called. And I used to come back to ARK Unreleased Features to create videos on a lot of time, and it's such a throwback to me. And what I loved about it was the fact that, you know, they would get updated every now and then to find out stuff that's upcoming for ARK or hasn't been released yet. And there was a bit of information that was pulled from one of the devs where there was potential airship and airship bases. This is so old school. This is diving back to a lot of years in my brain. And I was always really looking forward to having these types of things added into the game, and they kind of did it with the skiff. You know, they kind of did do some things like that with the past game, but they never really, they said they never were able to properly do what they wanted to, because they, you know, it just, the game Unreal Engine 4 just didn't give them enough for what they had for their vision. So I'm truly excited to see what they're going to do with these space biomes and what they're going to do with the new vehicles. And I think this is going to be crazily exciting. Something I've completely forgot to mention is that Genesis Part 2 is actually planned to release August 2026. Now, right now, of course, the last time we were told that was quite a while ago from Studio Wildcard. Studio Wildcard have told us that Genesis Part 1 is coming April and Genesis Part 2 is coming August. And they said the reason why there is such a long time between maps is because there is a lot of work going into the Genesis maps this year. And that, like, you know, like they said, being a map-wide sized, like, ocean on Genesis Part 1 and space in Genesis Part 2. So I don't mind those release dates, but I do think to myself, you know, so we get Lost Colony in next month, December the 16th, and then we then wait 4 months until, if it's on time, for Genesis Part 1, which personally, I don't think 4 months is bad. I've seen some people say, wow, waiting 4 months for a new map is crazy. And I guess it is quite a long time in the grand scheme of things. But, you know, 4 months for a whole new DLC release is kind of what it's always been, really. I know for new players that might seem quite long, but time just flies. And then we have April, so then we have, and then we have May, June, July, August. So it's another 4 months, right? If they stick within that. And then Fiorda, so September, October, November, December. So yeah, they are planning, because Fiorda's meant to be coming in December, so it looks like they're trying to do it every 4 months release. But I do still think they are going to throw in, because time, you know, every 4 months it can get quiet, right, towards those, you know, 2 months in or something, depending on how good the maps are. So I do expect them to do, to release some form of asterisk next year, something similar to that. I can imagine maybe like a new free map, because I still personally hope somewhere down the line they're going to sneak in a Crystal Isles or Lost Island next year. I'm hoping. I'd rather them put all their focus on the Genesis maps to make them perfect, but maybe a third party could come in. I know it didn't go that well with the center, but maybe that could be possible. But anyway, guys, obviously we've still got a little while until we're actually going to be playing on Genesis Part 2. But something I've noticed as I've got older is time is just flying by. And this, I know, I'll be making this video and then out of nowhere we'll be nearly there again. Like, that's just crazy how it is. But Genesis Part 2 had survivors exploring a vast world filled with strange new biomes, story missions, and exotic creatures. The map was set above the massive Genesis ship with 2 rings, and on the right side is a regular ring with green terrain, as well as normal creatures. On the left side is a corrupted ring of purple terrain and horrifying creatures. The ship is traveling through deep space looking for a habitable planet, which, if you follow the lore, you will know the planet we're looking for is where we land on ARK 2. So we are on a very big journey right now if you are part of the ARK Survival Ascended community. And know there's still a lot of OG ARK Survival Evolved players that haven't come over yet, and they still are all returned, and they do, I know a lot of them are planning to for Lost Colony because they're excited to see a Rat Prime. So I look forward to welcoming all of you guys to the next story of ARK Survival. It's going to be awesome, and I hope we see a lot of you guys there. But then once we've had Lost Colony, diving back into the Genesis maps, and then after that, we're on our road to ARK 2. It's taken a lot of time. It's taken so much time of our lives up, like GTA 6. But we will get there, slowly but surely, and over these next 2 years, I can't wait to explore where we're going to be. And I saw something from someone on, I think it was on TikTok the other day, and it basically was like they've started like writing things down in a diary like from like a year ago, and then they've been reading like what's happening in life in that time to see the difference of change, and that's what I'm really looking forward to doing a little bit more from now up and for these next 2 years, because there's so much exciting stuff to come for the game. And it would be, no, my luck, it would get to 2027, and I'll be like, oh, 2's been delayed to 2030. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's enough of rambling on from me. Lost Colony will be available as the next story map before Genesis Part 2 on the 16th of December 2025. So apart from that, I look forward to playing Genesis Part 2 with all of you next year, depending if that's the map you're coming back for or you're just waiting for it. It's going to be really exciting. See you guys then.